Who was the Minnesota Wild's 2021 Player of the Year? What was their 2021 Game of the Year? We recap 2021 with our year in review today on Locked on Wild.
You're Locked on Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked on Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen every day. And just as a reminder, Locked on Wild is free and available wherever you listen to podcasts, so you can listen anytime, anywhere. On today's episode of Locked on Wild, we review 2021 with our Game of the Year, our Player of the Year, and we gear up for the Winter Classic with some elite nuggets on the St. Louis Blues. Zach Zeman joins us to give us the dirt on the Wild's opponent for the Winter Classic. My name is Seth Topal, host of Locked on Wild, veteran Minnesota sports content producer and captain of Locked on Wild. Happy to be on with you in the week between Christmas and New Year's. All eyes on the Winter Classic. And so we will continue to preview the game a little bit every day leading up to the matchup. But Zach Zeman is here. Zach Attack on this edition of Locked on Wild. And we're going to talk year in review as well. Zach, how are things going? Hope you had a good Christmas.
Yeah, things are great. Merry Christmas, everyone. We're pretty close to 2022. You know, it's kind of crazy. It's getting cold now, man. I'm telling you, I'm start putting layers on before I head back to Missouri. It's like 60 there. Like, what the heck? But yeah, it's cold up here. Not used to it. I've been in Missouri too long, but yeah, you know, it's great. 2022 is right around the corner. We had a great Christmas, and you know, it feels good. We're back.
We are back. And as mentioned, we're going to do a little bit of a year in review here today, closing the page on 2021 and flipping to 2022. So we're going to look at two different categories, Game of the Year and Player of the Year for the early portion of the Wild's season, which featured 30 games, and the Wild able to get off to a 19-9-2 start. So let's start with Game of the Year, and then we'll talk Player of the Year in the middle of the show. Obviously, several candidates for Game of the Year. I mean, you can go back to the third game of the season, a 6-5 win over Winnipeg, in which the Wild trailed by 2 late in that game. They get the game tying and game winner from Joel Eriksson Ek in that game to complete the hat trick. I think that's the game I was trying to find. I knew somebody had that performance, and so Joel Eriksson Ek with the hat trick in that game to give the Wild the win, in which, as mentioned, they trailed for pretty much all of it. So that obviously a contender for Game of the Year. Obviously, you also have, you know, the Pittsburgh win, in which the Wild won 5-4 in the shootout. Had 2 goals late to send that one to overtime. 7-2 win over Dallas, also a candidate. 7-1 win over Winnipeg, a candidate as well. And you could say 4-2 win over the Tampa Bay Lightning at home was a contender. The 4-3 shootout win over Toronto, a contender as well. The 4-1 win over Edmonton. Plenty of contenders for win of the year. Zach, if you had to pick one, which one are you going with?
Yeah, I like the first one you mentioned, but I like it. You know, it's like the big welcome fans game. But the one I think is the Game of the Year so far is the one where the Wild shut down the Maple Leafs after scoring 3 early and then giving up 3, but forcing it into the shootout. But, you know, you talk about how hyped up this Toronto team is, and you match them up against this high-rolling Wild team, and you know, that's exactly what you expected out of this game. You know, like Greenway showed up, Zuccarello, Foligno early on, and then Spezza came back with a couple. Matthews obviously gets one, and then you force it into, you know, a shootout. And I think like the 10-minute mark in the third period towards the end of the game, I did not sit down. Like, this is one of the games where it's like, holy crap, the win streak is still intact. If this team wins, this could be something special. And, it's kind of like, why would you doubt them? Of course they're going to win. It's home. It's like the Wild finally showed up and forced it and won it. And it's just an electric night in St. Paul. That's mine. I think shutting down Toronto says a lot. So
I think that's far and away the winner for game of the year. Now, one of my favorites was the win against Edmonton, but you look at going into that game, Edmonton had lost, I think, 3 in a row, somewhere in there. So they were obviously scuffling coming into the game. Toronto had won 15 out of 17. So they were playing at like peak level coming into that game. And the Wild, as you alluded to, shut them down to start that game off. It was 3-0. I was tweeting out that they were going to get run out of the building. And then obviously Toronto made the comeback to tie it up at 3-3. But the shootout, Cam Talbot did his job. And, one of the, I think, highlight images of the year is the fist bump by Talbot after he gets the final save to win the game in the shootout. And I replicated that in my living room while nearly tearing my rotator cuff. Just an unbelievable game, an unbelievable atmosphere. Like, you could hear the electricity through the TV. Various members of Wild Media, shout out Jesse Pierce, friend of the show, saying that it was an atmosphere that they hadn't seen at the XL Energy Center in quite some time for a regular season game. And so, it's rare for a game of that stature to live up to the hype, but that one definitely did. And, as nice as it is to just wallop Winnipeg and Dallas, it's the Toronto game hands down as game of the year.
Yeah, and the context heading into that game, I know you mentioned it earlier. Toronto was on fire. The Wild were also on fire. It's just clash of the Titans, and that's a game that we'll remember for the rest of the year. Honestly, it's to see the X bump in that early in the season, and to see this team thriving is something that's really special, and it hasn't happened recently.
Yeah, just put the picture of that. I think there was a timeout like shortly after the Wild scored to make it 3-0, in which the X just came unglued, and you look at the Toronto players and they're just like,
yeah,
they're like, boy, this is getting out of hand in a hurry. And like, that's, I think, when we knew that this Wild team had a little something. I think that might have even prompted my this team has the sauce, and the sauce is delicious quote.
Yeah, you said that on the episode we did after Edmonton. Yeah, I mean, and they beat Edmonton the couple nights after. It's like, this team's special. That was the epitome of the early season games, and it's just great memories, but so much more left.
Like
so many games left.
We've got we still got to go on the 15-game winning streak started by the Classic. So keep that in mind. But the 2021 game of the year is far and away the Toronto Maple Leafs shootout win. So congratulations to the Wild for winning that game and getting the commemorative Locked On Wilds seal of approval, I guess.
The slogan.
Yeah, I didn't really think this out in terms of awards to give, but who cares? So that's the game of the year. We'll talk about the player of the year for the Minnesota Wild next. More with Zach Zeman coming up here on Locked On Wild. BetOnline.ag has you covered all bowl season long with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as the NFL also continues its march to the playoffs. BetOnline.ag remains your number one spot for all of your favorite sports action this season. So head to their website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code LOCKEDON to receive that welcome bonus. The NBA, college basketball, the NFL, bowl season, the NHL, boxing, and UFC, all the way down to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available into 2022. BetOnline.ag is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. So don't wait to take advantage of all the new amazing offers available, all at BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. Continuing today's episode of Locked On Wilds, and again, thank you for making Locked On Wilds your first listen every day. Zach Attack is here for a Tuesday edition of the show. Year in review, in which we now move to the Player of the Year. Several candidates worthy of this spot on the roster. Obviously, we got to start with Kirill Kaprizov, who, do you remember back to the start of the year when everybody was like, he's not scoring goals?
Yeah,
Hasn't scored any
the chart.
12 goals, 24 assists, 36 points in 30 games. And he's on pace, just to remind you, he's on pace for 98 points in 82 games, including 33 goals, 66 assists. So Kirill Kaprizov, obviously a contender for Player of the Year for the Minnesota Wild, but there are a couple of others as well. Ryan Hartman, leading the team in goals with 14. He's on pace for 30-plus this season. So he obviously has to be part of that contenders list as well. You've got the likes of Marcus Foligno, who has 13 goals himself and is on pace for a 30-goal season as well. You could throw Joel Eriksson Ek into the mix with 11 goals, obviously now going on to miss several games. We're not sure exactly the timetable for him, but was playing, on pace himself for 30 goals. So another contender for Player of the Year for the Wilds. Also have to throw in Cam Talbot. 15-7-1 in 23 games so far this year, 2.83 goals against average, and a .914 save percentage. Don't let those numbers fool you, because this is what happens in especially in the world of goaltending. Obviously, he's got a couple of games in which he's given up six goals. The Dallas one most recently really puffed up that goals against average. He's had some great games this year. The Edmonton game in particular. The Toronto game was great as well, despite giving up the 3 goals. And, played really well against the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning, both games, despite giving up the 5 goals to Florida and the 4 goals to Tampa Bay, and then the 1 goal in the shootout. Mm-hmm. He's played really well as well. So obviously those guys for sure are in the mix. Did I miss anybody that should also be thrown in?
Kevin Fialan. No, I'm kidding. I think that adding on to the Talbot number deal, you got a goalie who's, consistent enough, but you also have forwards who can put the puck in the net and the team's in first place right now in the Central. I mean, I don't even think the numbers matter. If you have a consistent goalie who's keeping your team in first place like that and keeping your team at the top of your division, that's all you can ask for. I don't think that, you see a lot of these goalies with great numbers and their teams aren't the best. It's all about having a team that can consistently score goals and rely on their goalie, to give up a couple. It's not like he's held to such a high standard where, one game now is going to decide every game like he used to. This team is scoring goals and it's working, and they can rely on Talbot to let in a couple, and it's going to be fine.
I'll give you just for statistical sake numbers last year. I did not realize how close things were getting to last year's numbers already. So Talbot in 2020, 2021, the whole season, started 33 games. He went 19, 8, and 5 with a 2.63 goals against average and a .915 save percentage. Remember how much we raved about how good Talbot was all season last year?
Yeah.
His numbers are basically in line with what he did last year, except the goals against average is slightly higher.
Yeah, the fact that you can consistently have a last year with the same team, constantly, like you can carry your points over from last year in a consistent way. It's not like he's it's not like he's much better than he was. It's not like he's much worse than he was. He's exactly what he was the year before, and I think that's what your team can ask for. It's just a consistent goalie who they can rely on, and that's his Exhibit A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my votes for Player of the Year for 2021, Ryan Hartman.
Mm-hmm. I'm on it with you.
I think that's the route I'm going because he's always been a complimentary player and a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
And said in the offseason, I'm going to shoot more, and is leading the team in goals. And I don't see that stopping. Like, I don't see him, finishing with 5 goals in 2022 and finishing the year with 20. Like, I think he's got 15 more in him the rest of the way, because it's just a matter of being more aggressive. And that's not something that just goes away. Like, that sticks with you.
The thing that catches my eye here is that, of course, we're expecting Kaprizov to score a ton and get a lot of assists and all that because he's just our best player. But coming into this year, the notion was, okay, we can rely on Fialan, we can rely on Eriksson to score us goals. But when Eriksson is hurt and Fialan is not having the greatest year imaginable, and Hartman just steps up. I mean, if you get a guy who can say, he's kind of just a convenience player for us a couple years ago, and now he's stepping up, he's scoring goals, he's for sure the player of the year so far. I mean, you talk about being nothing, not nothing, but not something huge, like not a big name in this team, and now he's the leading scorer of this team in this year so far. That says something huge in a role he's playing for this team, is that, obviously they trust one another to step up, but someone's got to take advantage or hop on a point streak or something. But Hartman is there now. Hartman is scoring. Hartman is working. And man, it's just so crazy. You wouldn't have thought coming into this year that, oh my gosh, Ryan Hartman, I can't wait for him. I can't wait for him to score a lot of goals. It's not like that was all Fiala, that was all Kaprizov, that was all Ek. That was just the top guys, Foligno. You don't really talk about Hartman, in the preseason coming in, and now he's the leading scorer on his team. So it's really satisfying to see these numbers when players get hurt and players aren't having the best year, and someone who can step up, and Hartman has been there, and it is so just amazing to see it. It's he's definitely been having the year of his life. Like, seriously, it's great for him. He's showing it up.
He went from a third line wing to a top line center in one off season.
Boom.
Who does that?
Yeah. Stepping up to the challenge, believing in yourself. Hey, I can do this. Yeah. Let's lead this team and let's do it. And look at him now. He's the leading scorer.
Congratulations, Ryan Hartman.
Yeah.
Again, I don't have a prepared award, but
Locked
on Wilds. Yeah. Locked on Wilds 2021 Player of the Year.
Yeah.
So
bingo.
That's those are some of the highlights from the 2021 season. We're going to finish the show today by diving into the Winter Classic yet again, because turns out Zach has some diamonds, some gems for this matchup that could sway the outcome for the Minnesota Wild. We will finish today's episode of Locked On Wild talking just that after this. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. And again, thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen every day, helping shatter records every single week, every single month, and hoping for a huge listener turnout for 2022. Zach, let's finish by talking about the Winter Classic, because turns out you did some digging on this matchup and found out that Jordan Binnington may not be the secret weapon for the Blues in this matchup. Turns out they have an even better goalie. Do tell.
All right, so Charlie Lindgren. This guy has, I believe he was a third string starting the year. I might be wrong on that. But let's just call him a backup. So Charlie Lindgren has started 5 games for the Blues this year. He's won all 5, along with a goals against average of 1.22, which is incredible. So he leads the league in goals against average right now. Another side note, he's from Lakeville, Minnesota. He went to Lakeville North. I believe it was St. Cloud State. Yeah, I mean,
Sure did.
which is interesting about this, because the Blues still have a game to play. They have to host the Oilers before the Winter Classic. I'm sure they're probably going to give it to Binnington just because it's reliable. But if Binnington does not have a good game against the Oilers and he doesn't show up to what the Blues are hoping of him that night, can you start to see Berube, going, hey, Lindgren, you might get the nod here because it's in your home state. I know you're going to be fired up. You got something to prove in front of your family who's probably all going to be there. Let's go show them. I bet you that is a serious conversation that's going to happen before this game starts.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack, but I think he's got a shot, and I would not count him out here because 5 starts, 5 wins. If there's one game in the year you want to win other than the playoffs, it's the Winter Classic because you're on primetime TNT. I mean, in your home state. I mean, come on.
Yeah, listen to this. So here are the teams that he beats. He came in relief against the Florida Panthers and beat them in overtime. He beat Detroit 6-2, Montreal 4-1, Dallas 4-1, and then Dallas 4-1. So he beat Dallas back-to-back starts.
The Wild just lost to Dallas.
Yeah.
It's just little stuff like that where you go, I might need you in this game a little bit here. If you can beat the teams the Wild are losing to.
Yeah, and Binnington has been Binnington's been in the protocol. His last start was the 19th against Winnipeg, which he gave up 4 goals and lost. He, in fact, in his last 5 starts, he's 2-3.
Yeah, who knows how fresh he's going to be. I know they're all in postponements right now, but once you battle, we don't know how severe his COVID was. But if you're just, off the ice for a bit, and you can definitely get tossed up a little bit. And if you're in protocol, it's going to affect you. There's just little things that make me think that this guy might get the nod here, Lindgren. And I think it would be just magic. I think he, he's got it. I think so. I would totally rely on him if I was a head coach here. Just the stories behind it. If they can do digging like I did for 10 minutes, I think they can seriously consider him.
Well, and if you got a hot hand at the goalie spot, you ride it. And so maybe you give Binnington an opportunity against Edmonton. If he is not good, then I say you go Lindgren 100%. The guy that gives you the best opportunity to win the game. And
I just think it's if you're a kid who's grown up in Minnesota and played high school hockey here in the state, and you walk out on a Target field, because I bet you he's been to some Twins games, and I bet you he knows what it's like attending Target Field. Nevertheless, for the Winter Classic, I bet you he'll be fired up and he'll be ready, because I know, he's going to be ready. He's going to be dialed in. Like, this is his game, and this is the game he's probably most looking forward to. I can't imagine them sitting him and just watching the game from the bench like that. I just can't imagine it.
If the Wild get the Winter Classic again in a couple of years, it's likely that they'll be starting Jesper Wallstedt, because just to slide that in, he had a pretty darn good start in the World Juniors. We'll talk more about that with Spoke Z later in the week, but
he's been rock solid. I don't think Sweden had too many shots that game. I think Slovakia was all over him there, and Wallstedt was rock solid. So that is very, it's always great to see when your young prospects, showing up.
Clamps, put the clamps on.
Going back to the Winter Classic here, I did, I'll be in attendance, so I'm looking forward to the forecast here. Yeah, it's going to be rough. It's apparently at puck drop. It's going to be -4, but the wind chill is it's just going to feel like -18 degrees Fahrenheit. Woohoo. I can't wait. And I was like thinking, what's the coldest game that's ever been played outdoors in Minnesota? Because this could be really interesting. And the thing I saw here, I believe it was the 2016 Vikings versus Seahawks, Blair Walsh playoff game. Oh gosh, just remembering the wide left. It was -6 there. The wind chill made it -25 degrees Fahrenheit. I think with my knowledge just of researching 10 minutes of all this stuff and weather and becoming a meteorologist for like 10 seconds, I think this might be the second coldest outdoor Minnesota sports game.
Jeez.
Yeah, buckle up, Wild fans. Dress nice. I'm gonna be dressed ugly. Like I don't even think I'm. Yeah, it's gonna be bad. I'll be wearing probably 5 layers and gaiters, and yeah, you gotta dress warm. I'm gonna buy probably 30 hand warmers. No, I'm kidding, but you know what I mean. Like it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be cold. I think it might snow a little bit. Just to add on, I think the coldest NHL game ever was like 2003 Heritage Classic, back when like Gretzky or not Gretzky, it was just up in Edmonton, -22 degrees Fahrenheit. By the way,
Ooh.
yeah, that's fun. Yeah, so this is not going to be a nice, enjoyable game to watch in person, but it's all for the experience, and I'll be there.
In true Minnesota fashion, you're going to be able to tell the Minnesota fans because they are all going to be wearing ice fishing gear.
Yeah.
You're
I'm taking all my dad's ice fishing gear. I will be dressed up like the Michelin Man. I don't like my arms, like the Christmas story, my arms just going to be out. Like, I don't think I'm going to be able to put my arms down. It's going to be cold. I'm probably never going to go on my phone. Like, seriously, it's going to be miserable, but it's going to be so fun.
Survival is key because we need to make sure that people are in attendance to watch the Wild beat the Blues 4-1 on the Winter Classic.
Honestly,
yes, my official call is the Wild win 4-1 on New Year's Day.
Yeah, I'll say like 5-3.
Ooh, yeah. I like that. I like that score.
Yeah, I like that score too. I feel like that's just a confident. We're not going to overtime type B. Let's get an empty netter here, or like let's do something.
Win one for Talbot and his pads. Did you see his Winter Classic?
Oh my gosh, even Kakinen's pads are unbelievable. Like this is gonna be the drippiest hockey team. I mean, these might not be the fan favorite, but it is what it is. It's got history.
I like them.
Yeah,
I like the jerseys. If anything, they're a little busy, but I think the Winter Classic jerseys are just fine.
Yeah, it's got a lot of history. I like how it says Minneapolis and St. Paul, and then they're playing in a twin stadium where like Minnie and Paul are twins. I think that's just classic. It's definitely more meaningful than a Blues. I think the Blues got their old logo on it, which is like pretty cool. But
yeah.
Their jerseys are nice. I like this jersey mashup. I think it's gonna be pretty cool. It's gonna be It's gonna be a sweet game. This is the most deserving fan base of a Winter Classic. I mean, come on, like it's finally here. The fans gotta pop out. They gotta show up here. Like this is gonna be an intense game. It's not gonna mean. I mean, it's gonna mean a lot. I mean, the Blues are right behind us. But then again, it's just one game. If all crap hits the fan, it's not a big deal, but it'll be a great experience.
Yeah, it still would be nice to trounce them after what they did to us.
Yeah, no, seriously, I'm all for it. I go to college in Missouri. Who do you think is texting me every day saying, bro, you're going to lose. You're going to lose. Every single person I know down there. So they're ready. None of them are coming up here. None of them want to come up here and watch it. It's too cold. That's literally all they're saying.
Unbelievable attitude.
Yeah, but we got to, it's going to be frozen. It's going to be cold to say the least.
Just like this just in, it was a 48 save shutout for Jesper Wallstedt against Slovakia.
Yeah. We're gonna need new goaltending soon. We're gonna need it soon, and the
give him a year.
Pretty close, and we're gonna need to rely on. Oh, that pick is just unbelievable. Wallstedt is such a beauty. He was stellar. I watched the game for a solid period today, before we just hopped on here. And it's just so nice to see a confident goalie in that net. He's tall. I noticed that he's pretty tall. Maybe it's just me, and maybe it's the camera angle, but yeah, he's a beauty. I'm a fan of Jesper Wallstedt. You might see me in a Sweden jersey pretty soon here.
I would support it.
Yeah.
Well, You heard it here. Locked on Wild pulling for Charlie Lindgren to get the start.
No,
In the,
I mean, do we want him to start? Because then we'd probably have a better chance of losing. But
if
no.
I had my pick, I would probably go with Ville Husso, although he beat the Wild the last time we played him. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it would be a fun story to have Lindgren start.
I think that'd be great.
I'll go with
That's a
that.
cool nugget of information I found. I think that'd be pretty good for the kid.
Elite Diamond.
Mhm.
And that's going to wrap up today's episode of Locked on Wild. So now that your first listen of the day is done, make sure with bowl season in full swing that you check out Locked on Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all of your gambling needs. Locked on Bets is hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. Locked on Bets is free and available on all podcast platforms, just like Locked on Wild. You can listen anytime, anywhere on your favorite podcast platforms. Check us out on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, keeping you up to date on all things Minnesota Wild as much as we possibly can, because if a puck drops in the state of hockey, Locked on Wild has you covered with new episodes every Monday through Friday as parts of the Locked On Podcast Network.